Welcome to this month's call, everybody. This is February 20, 2019 PowerApps Community Call. And usually, Audrey is joining me as the host of Silicon Valley. And the rumor is that they're going to reboot the Silicon Valley show, and she's going to be the star. No, I'm just kidding, but I think she would do well in that anyway. But whatever the case may be, I will be your host today, and we have a packed agenda, as Dana mentioned, so let's get right into it today. A little housekeeping first, the PowerApps community call. You can click that link right there to download a calendar invite so you can get it on your calendar and join us every month. We do this every month on the third Wednesday of each month. Our next call is going to be same time, same place on March 20, 2019. In this call, every month, we share the latest news and community contributions from across the PowerApps community. We give you a chance to meet the product teams behind PowerApps. We do deep technical dives and we have Q&A. And so in today's call, our agenda looks like this. Today, we're going to go through who's presenting today real shortly, and then we're going to talk about the brand new PowerApps updates, and these are the new reusable components. And I know my team and I are having a lot of fun working on these, and so Yifei is here to tell us all about them. We also have Eichel here to tell us all about Power Twitter, a very cool Power App he made, which actually replicates the Twitter website. Then we have some news and community activities. We've introduced a new segment called the Monthly Tip. So Audrey and I will both be giving out one of those in the future. Since she's not here today, that'll be just me. And then we'll finish with some Q&A. Today's presenters are myself on the left, Yifei Wang from Microsoft. She leads the team that is working on creating components for PowerApps. And we also have Eichel Mendoza here today. And Eichel created Power Twitter, and he's going to show that to us. We also have in the background here today's PowerApp product team chat guru, Brian Dang. Thanks, Brian, for being here. I've already seen you chime in on a couple questions in the Q&A. We really appreciate your help. So without further ado, let's just move on here now. And Yifei is going to present to us what are components. So I will stop my screen share here and let her take it away.
Hello, everybody. Can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay. Okay, let's get started. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Yifei. I am a program manager from PowerApps Maker team. I am very excited to introduce this Canvas component as experimental feature this morning. As a maker, you probably have been through this before. You create a useful group of controls like a header, and you want to copy paste it to each screen of your app where it's needed. But what if you want to update any part of your control, such as an icon, such a formula, or even a color? You have to do this change in every copy. There's a lot of small edits that can happen and add up to a significant task. Component feature is here to help. What are components? Components are reusable building blocks for Canvas apps. You can define a set of controls to reuse inside an app, and they behave in a master instance manner, meaning that any updates you make to the original copy, and we call it component master, will apply to the other copies in the same app. What are some of the benefits of using components? First of all, performance gain. Let's compare the two methods. The first method, copy pasting header into each screen of your app. Every time when you do copy pasting, the codes get duplicated, and the size of your app increases as every time you copy paste. With component feature, every instance will point to the component master, meaning every time when you reuse the component, size of your app does not get increased. So smaller size of your app will run faster. The second benefit is import and export. If you go to the UI, you will see options, import and export to files and from files. This means that I can build a header component and I will send an email to Brian saying, hey, try this header component that I built. And Brian can import it from the file and boom, he will have the header component for himself as well. Please note that the lifecycle of the component is only bonded to the app. So after sharing, there's no linkage between the two apps. I will share more detail when we talk about the vision in the end. And the last but not least, customer properties. Control have properties such as color, height, size, etc. out of the box. But when you create a header component and reusing each screen, whatever you want to make customization in each different instance. For example, what if I want my header component to display different color in different screen? Customer property is a way for your component to receive data and emit data. Let's take a look at the demo here. To try out the component feature, first of all, you need to go to app setting, advanced setting, and all the way in the bottom. Make sure that this feature is turned on. After you turn on this switch, you will see two differences. First of all, next to the tree view, you will see a component list. This is a list display all the component masters in your app that you have created. If I click on new component, I'll land it to a square. Are you guys can still see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Looks
Okay.
good.
Looks.
It's something important. Okay, let's keep continuing. Yep. So after I click on add new component, I landed to a square screen. This is the space you can drop controls to make your component, and you can also edit the size. Let's see. In this demo, I'm going to do a symbol.
The screen. Sorry, Yefei, the screen is gone.
Oh. Do it again. How about now?
Not yet.
How about now?
It was trying, but no. Yeah.
Yeah, I see it again. I see Teams.
Yeah,
Okay.
we see Teams. So
Good. Can you see it now?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we
I
see
see
it.
Microsoft
Just need to-
Teams on your screen.
Yeah, it's showing Teams.
Okay.
Just need to switch back to your presentation.
Okay, great. Click on the new component. I'm landing to a square canvas. That's where I'm going to drop.
Ife, can you?
Yes.
It looks like you're sharing your Teams window. Can you share the screen that has your PowerPoint on it?
This top one. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yep, it's good.
Okay. Okay, great. I'm landing to a square canvas where I'll be dropping whatever I want to reuse in this space. And in this demo, I'm going to do a numerical up and down. Let's make it smaller. A numerical up and down is basically a text input with two buttons, one going up, one going down. It's just a demonstration of how can you use component. What are the concept, new terminology I just talked about. Say +1, -1. So currently I am just trying to build a normal numerical up and down. Let's create a variable to do so. Then the default input.
So as you can all see, while she's building her component here, the authoring experience in a component is just like it is in a screen. You're just dragging controls, putting them on, setting their properties and things like that. So there's not a huge learning curve on how to build these once you figure out how to get data in and out of the components.
Yep, exactly. Thanks for filling me up. Yep, this is how you would normally build a numerical up and down. Let's try it out. So I just landed to new component canvas and build the same thing. And let's go back to the app authoring. See, let me open a new one. And the second place you will see a new UI change is in the Insert tab. After you create a component and you come back here, you will see the components showing up. Maybe change it to something. Let's rename it to up down. And let's try to insert it. There you go, and I have the exact same copy here. You can insert as many copy as you want. And interesting that each instance will have its own behavior. Let's play it around. So changing one copy does not affect the other one. And if I want to make any update, I go back to my component master and say I change the color of my button. It automatically updates all the instances in your app. And what if I want to, so components when you're using in your app authoring is treated as a whole thing. So in my tree view, I cannot expand everything, all the controls inside my component. Let's make sure that when people in the app authoring will not mess up your component. But what if I want to emit some data? In this case, what if I want to emit the data of the current number that's doing up and down? I would use a custom property as we talked about to be an output number. Let's see. And what I did is just I created a new custom property that is a number. Now I need to tell I need to tell what this property number should be outputting. So I use formula to say var is the number that I want to give out. Let's try it now. So going back to app authoring, I'll add a label to show that how can I listen to this number. Up down 1 is the number, is the name of the instance, and custom property I didn't rename it. So now this text is listening to the output property, which is the number it's outputting from label 1. Let's try to make this one listen to my second instance. Let's play around with it. This is a very quick demo of some of the new terminology and concept we just talked about. There are a lot of more cool stuff that you can do with components. I have 2 more examples here. One is a menu banner. It's trying to it's a component that I built trying to look similar as a tab control. In here, I use a gallery to mimic how the tab control looks like, and I create customer property, which is a table property that takes input. The input looks like this. So in the table input, I need to tell what schema it's taking. It's taking the name you want to display. It will take also a screen type. So the onSelect of the gallery can navigate to whatever screen you give input. An image file, which I didn't really use the image here. So when I go to my screen, let's take a look how I use this one. So when I reuse this header component, this input property, I give 4 items into the table. The name is the display, and I tell which screen I want to navigate to. Of course, again, I didn't use the image. So I made the 3 screens. I made 3 screens, and with the header components, each screen have a button to show that they're different. So just quickly play around with this one. So by clicking on the name, I can navigate to whichever screen. It's an easy way that you build header component once and reusing each screen in your app. And another example I want to show is a calendar component. The calendar component you probably have seen it somewhere is the Office or the calendar screen template. Yes. So this component is heavily, you can choose what year, what month, and you can select the date. It's heavily using formula to calculate how does the display should looks like. Let's try it out. In the first screen, let's insert another calendar component. So here we should say 2 copies of the calendar control, and in the calendar control, something else has been set up is an output property that tells what are the dates has been selected. We'll do the same thing, trying to listen to the output property. And this component is heavily rely on calculation formulas. It's being a little slow. Okay. Label. You will notice that when you type in the instance name and do dot, IntelliSense will tell you what are the available. So the input output property that you just set up will automatically show up. Let's play with it. So after selecting the dates, it will show me what are the dates I've been selecting. It's pretty cool. Those 2 example, the 3 example demo I walked through is a very simple example to demonstrate the idea of updating, of reusing, where the UI will be changing. And the banner example and calendar example is to inspire people to see what are the things you can do with components. There are actually a lot of more cool stuff you can do. And we have prepared, we noticed that in this feature, there will be new concepts and new terminology. We have prepared some learning materials, blog posts, and Brian in his YouTube video have a series of videos walks step by step how do you build a header component, and a lot more interesting content. Please check it out. And in the end, I want to talk a bit about going forward. Component is a feature that's a step towards reusability and scalability, as well as for more complex apps and distributed app building. There's so many more to come. And one of the areas that we're investigating is how do you share components using the cloud. Imagine if you create a component that's similar to the Office user screen template, you can share on the cloud. Every maker in your organization will automatically get access to this component, and one click, they can reuse the component in their app. Other makers don't even need to know how to build this component. They can just treat it as rich control library. This can make app authoring experience much simpler, but also rich. This makes co-authoring easy and support app makers to become creative. We hope this feature will shape how people making an app. And we really want to hear back from you guys. You can share how do you think in the comments, in the blog post, in the YouTube, Yammer, and also create posts in the forum, ideal forums with component tag. And leave comments everywhere you can reach to us. Your feedback will help us to create a future that we all want to see. That's it from me. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. That's a great presentation and introduction to components there. I'm really glad that you showed more than just one component there. The docs, that are online right now talk about how to make the menu component. So I see a lot of people making blogs off those, and it's really nice to see that you show other things that can bring in data and do things other than just a menu, because as you look at a Power App, in my opinion, anytime you have something that you can repeat across screens or across apps, it's a really good candidate for a component. So thanks again for showing that. I bet you did not have time to look at the chat while you're presenting that, but there's a lot of excitement about it, and everybody says, wow, this saves me so much time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So we're going to move on to the next part of the call now. And we are actually perfectly on time here. So Aiko, I'll let you take it away and talk about the cool Power Twitter app you created and teach us some cool things about what you learned and built to implement that app.
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for this great opportunity to let me talk about Power Twitter to the Power Apps community. It's also amazing to showcase this app just before components. I think it's one of the greatest things in Power Apps since I don't know, since I know this application. Well, in the screen right now, Power Twitter is a pixel-by-pixel implementation of Twitter's homepage in a Canvas Power App. This came into my, I don't know, it was an idea when we were organizing the Office 365 Developer Bootcamp here in Tenerife, in Spain. We wanted to create something awesome. We wanted to, I don't know, to push the possibilities of the Canvas app. So I had this idea to replicate the Twitter homepage to see if we can emulate everything that you can see in the web app, the menus, the Canvas use of the Twitter homepage, and also using the Twitter connector that we have in Power Apps. And for me, Power Twitter is not just a Power App. For me, for example, it's a repository of things that I've discovered, things that I've learned from the community when creating Canvas apps. I know that you've been here as I am right now, wondering, can I do this with Power Apps? It might be possible to do this. It might be possible to create something that is not really there in the actual components. I hope this helps you solve some of your requirements for your apps to see something that is being done here. For example, in Power Twitter, you have tweet sentiment analysis using Azure, connecting to the Azure Cognitive Services to analyze the sentiment of each tweet in your timeline. We also have light and dark themes. Those themes are are connected through all the app, through all the components that you have in your application, as you can see just right now. You can change the whole application by just setting a button in this application. And with this, we have the full control of the Canvas apps. What are the controls that you might see here? For example, one of the lesser known components is a screen canvas. That is a scrollable canvas that allows you to have a different scroll bar for the whole application. I will show you just about in a moment in the demo. We also have the flexible height gallery that allows you to have a gallery that's its size moves depending on the contents. It was the one of the things that I needed to replicate the Twitter homepage, because some tweets have more text than others, some tweets have images or stuff like that. And also we're going to see using SVGs in your application, because these are possible. This code example, for example, was given to me by, well, I was talking with Brian Dank about this, how to put SVG images into your Power App. At first, it was only available in the Power Apps when using the Power App in a browser screen, but now it's available in the Windows 10 application. With further ado, I'm going to show you what I mean with Power Twitter. Okay, let me show you my screen. Okay, are you seeing my screen right now?
We've got it.
Okay, as you can see here, this is Twitter, as you've been seeing the whole time, and this is Twitter as well, but in a Power App. As you can see, if I click Alt Tab, well, let me close one here. I'm very OCD with this application. It is almost just like the Twitter homepage. It has use of this. For example, you see the header and has a different scroll bar than the web app. You have the same here in the Power App. There are some things that
I see, Michael. So you're alt tabbing between the Power App and the web browser. That's why the top of the screen showing the browser there. Gotcha. Yeah, exactly. Look at that. Yeah, dead on.
That's what I wanted to show you. That is almost a perfect replica of Twitter. So this was the idea to see I can accomplish this. I can do this. I can, for example, in this application, I can, well, sorry for the misbehaving in the scroll bar. For example, I can see the images that you have in your tweets. I can, for example, show you the menu is replicated, so you can check here and do a sentiment analysis with Azure Connected Services of every tweet that you have in your timeline. For example, if the bar goes bigger, the tweet might be with a wrong sentiment or something, or sometimes like this tweet, it doesn't get it right all the time, but it's just an idea, so you can see how to work with Azure Connected Services from a Power App. It's just using the text analysis connector in Power App to accomplish this. But as you can see, I'm replicating almost everything. You have the menu here, you have the menu as well, and also if you click here, you get the dark mode. Well, it's going a little bit slower. My computer is taking so much to show you this, but you can see you can change the whole application skin by just clicking this button. Everything is made by collecting all the information. For example, in here, if you click on application settings, you will see all the colors that are in each team. For the light team or the dark team, all the colors that are here are the ones that are being used in the whole application. But everything doesn't stop there. When I talked with Todd about, I think it was in December, about showing Power Twitter to this to the community, everything was good, everything was fine. But then Twitter decided to change the whole application and the whole sorry, on the whole interface of Twitter just a few days just before the working with this demo. So I decided to take on. I have this is the new Power Twitter application. If you click here, this is the image that Twitter showed when they were testing the new interface. If you click here in the Power Twitter, you will be moved to the new version of Twitter. You can see here it's almost the same, except of the toolbar of the browser. You have everything as you have in Twitter, and even better, you can have some sorry, of the images. You can have, for example, you can learn from the application how to do this, how to create a shade of the zoomed images in your application. You can also have more exact copy of, for example, when you try to tweet, all the images that you see in this version of the Power App are SVGs, are not these are not JPEGs as they were. All these images, as you see here, are SVGs. I'm going to show you, for example, here. If I click here, these images, you will see that the image is a placeholder for querying this information from Twitter. What I did to recreate this was kind of simple. You inspect, for example, this image. You take the browser information, for example, the path that you have for your SVG. You take that into your Power App and just simply paste here the G section of the SVG file, because this needs to be here, exactly. For example, you can change the color and stuff like that. And you have all the images in the application as an SVG. So this improves your application because it doesn't take all the images inside in the application. Power Tutor is also created by using a Canvas application, a Canvas screen, sorry. As I told you before, this is the scrollable screen. When you create this screen, it creates an empty screen with a different, as I told you before, a different control that is not very well documented. That is a Canvas control that allows you to have a different scroll bar from the application. As you can see here, you have a scroll bar. You have an application that can grow as much as you like, as you are seeing in Power Tutor. This is the new version. The application can grow as it needs to. You can, for example, have it grow. In this example, we are growing to 5,000 pixels, so it can accommodate all the tweets that I'm looking in my timeline. And in this application, you always see a different approach to theming, because I'm not using this config screen with all the controls, because once I started creating this, I started to see that it was taking more and more to change the themes, because it was just looking for the control, looking for the fill property to get the color. So I changed some things a little bit. As you can see here, I created all the themes in code by using the color value. By just setting this, I can create all the themes that I want to use. These themes work even faster than the previous version, because it's in memory. So everything that works really well. The application is lighter, because I don't need this screen anymore to have all the controls in here. I started working with, for example, for the menu, in order to have more features here, but I couldn't make it to all the features that Twitter changed in this release of the UI. I even started working with the UI, and Twitter changed it in just a couple of days. For example, this option was changed from the version that I had. So one other thing that I learned, I found a pattern. For example, in Twitter, when they use the connector to tell me which images are being shown in a tweet. So I discovered a pattern that just changing the URL of the image, it allows me to show you, for example, the animated GIF that someone puts in a tweet, just by changing that when getting all the code. Another thing that I don't know if you noticed, in this version of Power Twitter, you have these links in a different color. You see the hashtags, the mentions that you have in every tweet are being with a different color. Let me see if the application responds. My laptop is struggling with sharing and all the stuff. But what I wanted to show you is that I'm not using a simple label to show you this. Let me change the screen to show you this information, the tweet message. I'm using an HTML control in order to show you the message. As you can see in the first version, all the text was just in one color, but in the new version, I decided to use a new approach, in a new feature in PowerApps, that is the regular expressions. By setting the regular expressions in each tweet message, I was allowed to change the oh man, okay, I think I can get it now. I was able to change the message that I'm showing here in my collection. I have in my collection all the tweets that I'm learning from from Twitter, that I'm getting from Twitter. I'm analyzing all the tweets that I get. I'm getting the regular expression to match hashtags or mentions, and then change the color inside of it to match this Twitter blue that you can see here. You will see here all this in. I'm going to write a blog post about this, but as you can see here in this code, this is what I changed for getting for example, the image to change into a video to show you the animated GIF, and also I have all the code here that use match all. That is a new function in PowerApps to match all the cases, for example, for the hashtags or for the mentions in the code, and then I change all the messages that I have in my collection to change when I see a match in my regular expression, to change the color appropriately. Okay. And another thing that I wanted to show you is another thing that I discovered by building this application is, for example, this text, as you can see in here. Let me see if I can show you. Okay. You know that when PowerApps tries to get all the fonts that are available for you when you use text, in the example, these ones that you get here, it gets all the families of this font. For example, the Segoe UI that Twitter is using for their interface. In this example, for this type of text, is using Segoe UI Black, not Segoe UI. So there was no way for me to increment the weight of this font by simply setting a bolder or something in PowerApps. So you can have, if PowerApps gets all the families of one font, you can put that text, HTML text, and change the style of that text to get the precise font family that you need for your needs, for example, for your application. I discovered this by using the DOM when I was testing the Power App. So those are one of the things that you need to take into account when you are creating user interfaces. That simply, if there's something that you need to accomplish that is not here in the toolbar of Power Apps, there's some other ways to get around it. And for another tip that you can see here in Power Twitter is, for example, when you're using, let me show you by running it. Let me see if I try to tweet. As you can see here, this is a rounded dialog. There are some approaches to do this. As you can see, the only control that allows you to set rounded corners is a rectangle. But in order to have this, I would need to have, for example, in the previous version of Power Twitter, I would need, sorry, to have this. Let me show you this a little bit. Let's see if it changes. Okay. I will need to have a dialog with different, let me click tweet, with different colors. So what was one of the ways that I could do this? I could have an image of this size to put here in my dialog. One of the approaches to solve this and to improve the application by using smaller images is to have one pixel image that you can put here like this, and then set the fill of the images like here, as you can see. Let me see if I can, to stretch. That way you can create one pixel images and then stretch that image in order to have a bigger image in your application. So you can put an image control, you can put a 1 pixel image inside of it, stretch it, and then set the border radius like here. So you can have rounded dialogues. What else? And just finishing here, one of the other things that I could show you here, that some other things that you will find in the application is one of the things that you can see here is always try to have proper naming controls. There was a guide that was in the PowerApps blogs a few months ago, I think, that I think it's very important to always see this and know where you are working with. If you're working with the canvas, you're working with the new tweet image, you're working with the toolbar, so you know where you're working with. It's better for you. It's better for the person that is working with you in the Power App. If this is a Power App that there are several people working with that, it's easier for them to know exactly where they are working with. And one last thing is always remember, just like components, that you can use. Try to reuse your code. Try to not replicate the code everywhere. Is not simply by using components whenever you can, but for example, when zooming images, I have the shade here that is simply showing whenever a variable is set. Is, for example, this shade visible is false. When I want to, if you click the shade, it disappears. It disappears the dialog. The image is the width of the zoom images is set to 0, and the menu is hidden as well. I don't want to repeat this, for example, if the person clicks the image that is on top of the shade. So what do? Instead of repeating the code, I go here in the onSelect. I simply use the select function. I just emulate the click. So when you select the shade image, it will run the onSelect of the shade image. So I don't need to recopy this. I need to copy this code everywhere. Or example, if I have several points where I refresh the Twitter application, I just simply put all the code in one control and set the others to just click select and run that code. Well, and that's it. I hope it wasn't a little bit overwhelming. Power Twitter is going to be, well, the first version is in my GitHub account, GitHub/ICL. The new version is going to be released today, also with a blog post trying to explain all the things that I show you this today, and I hope you like it.
That's awesome, Michael. Thank you so much. You got so many people in chat saying, love your app, great job, super app. So way to go. So many different things you talked about here. And if I could ask you, what were like 3 best practices that you consider a best practice that you learned as a result of creating Power Twitter?
Well, if I can tell you this, one of the very things, all the controls, as you saw in my screen, there were many controls for this application. In fact, it is very heavy on PowerApps because it has many controls. So one of the things that I've learned is I need to you need to try to reuse controls, for example, using components, or for example, using reusing code. Because, for example, I have one code refreshing the timeline. I have the same code refreshing the timeline, but using the cognitive services for the sentiment analysis. So I learned that I needed to organize all my code, all the callings in my application. For example, when the onStart runs, it just runs when the application starts. Remove the invisible code in each screen, because that takes a little while to just display a screen with that many controls. Another thing, not use another control to give me a variable. For example, it's best to use global variables by using set. And I think the one last thing is to proper naming. I can repeat that much. This proper naming of controls is a lifesaver. Sometimes you have that many controls in your screen that, oh man, I'm clicking. For example, all the dividers that you see in the timeline in the Power Twitter is crazy. There are so many dividers in every control, in every piece of the UI. So this is the divider. This is the first divider. This is the divider that is in the middle. It's crazy. But if you have proper naming, just by looking first divider, second divider, or whatever, you will see all the information at first.
Yeah, and combining groups with that proper naming can really make it a lot easier to get around in your app as you're building it too. I bet you know that one too. Yeah, exactly. That was fantastic. A couple things I was looking at it you did. One of them I just found out 2 days ago. Interesting thing to build on what you showed with the SVG for the image.
Yeah.
If you actually look at how PowerApps renders the SVG image in the DOM by opening up developer tools, you'll actually see that it's actually set as the background image property in the DOM. And the reason I figured that out is because I was putting hyperlinks into an SVG inside of a PowerApp, and I couldn't figure out why when I clicked them, they were not going anywhere. So that's when I looked at the DOM and I found out that that image is part of the background image property, and that's why your hyperlink won't fire. So that's a nice little tidbit to know about if you're using SVG in a Power App as well.
And another thing is that not everything is works with all the Power Apps applications, for example, to say at least. For example, I wanted to add shadowing for the new tweet button, and it works on the running PowerTutor by using the browser, but it doesn't work in the Windows 10 app. So I know the Windows 10 app is always catching up, but it's getting there because I don't know, 2 months, 3 months ago, the Windows 10 application didn't allow you to use SVGs, but now it does. So it's perfect. Perfect timing.
Yeah, yeah, certainly is.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for that. Let's finish out our call now. We have about 9 minutes left. And so here are resources related to PowerApps components and PowerTwitter. And I see a lot of questions in chat in case you just got here and you're wondering, is this deck available? The deck is available. The recording is available. Keep an eye on the Office Dev alias on Twitter, where the recording and the deck will be posted. And Dana also does a great job of gathering all the questions that pop up in the Q&A. She sends them to me afterward, and I go through and answer any that weren't answered and format that nicely. So our entire Q&A is also available in the blog posts that we follow up with here. Again, thanks to our presenters today. What a great call. Incredible content here. Everyone learning a lot. Really appreciate both of you taking your time to share it here today. So let's move on to some of the recent news here from PowerApps. We have a new blog post on the PowerApps team blog of all the things that are included in the January 2019 product updates. And a couple have come out since this blog, namely that app object inside of the PowerApps editor. And this is an important announcement. Make sure you're upgrading your previous version of CDS databases and any apps and flows that use them. I know we received an email for all the different tenants where we were using these and have gone through this process. And so this link here will tell you all about how you can go about doing that. Community contributions. Thank you, everybody who tweeted the PowerApps CC for PowerApps Community Call hashtag with their community contributions. When I rounded up the community contributions a few days ago, these were the 3 folks who had made a community contribution, and some of them had made more than one. If you made a community contribution since I put this slide in, don't worry, I'll capture it next week and put it up there. But I really love these too, because as I go through them and collate them and write them down, I look at them all too, and I learned some great things here too. So these were 3 of the ones that these gentlemen so nicely contributed to the community that you can take a look at and learn some great things too. So thanks everybody again for that. So the monthly tip section. This is really a short section, and my tip on the monthly tip for this month is when you're creating components, and I'm giving you this tip from firsthand experience. When you're creating them, start with some simple basic component first to understand how everything works before you create the component that you will actually implement in your Power App. This gives you a great understanding of how components work before you get too complicated implementing them. The first time I tried to make a component, I looked at the documentation. I went, okay, I see how this works in theory, and then I started building a very complicated component. I quickly found out that I didn't have things wired up the right way, and it wasn't working the way I expected. So I put that one on hold. I went back, I built the basic sample, the hello world-ish type sample, got it all straight in my head, returned back to the more complex one I had, and updated it and got it fixed real quick. So just passing on that knowledge of my experience and what I ran into, I think you can save yourself some time if you start simple and build a basic one before you build your end game. Next thing we have is pretty much Thanks for everybody for joining. As I mentioned, we'll post this on the Office Developer YouTube, and go ahead and please share your community content with us and tweet a link to the content, tiny description of it, and that hashtag PowerAppsCC. That's all you have to do, and you get automatically entered into a first quarter raffle to win an Xbox. So we've got one more month of doing this, and then after next month, we will be raffling off that Xbox. Finally, add this to your calendar. If it's not already on there, we'd love to see it each month and help you learn all about great things with Power Apps. Our next call, as I mentioned at the beginning, is on March 20, 8 a.m. Pacific time, and we hope to see you all then. We do have about 4 minutes left here for Q&A, and I'd like to thank Brian and everybody else who has been chiming in and answering questions in chat all the way. What a great community we have helping each other out here. And if there are any questions, we've got a few more minutes left, so
Yeah,
if
thank you
anybody
everyone.
would like to unmute and ask a question of the presenters or something else about Power Apps, now's your chance.
There were a couple of people who would like to know about the roadmap. Is that something you want to discuss, or should we save that for our next call?
I think we'll save that for a next call. I can give everybody a little teaser on the next call. We're going to be talking about InfoPath and how do we migrate from InfoPath forms and SharePoint workflows over to Power Apps and Flows. And that's going to be the majority of our conversation next month. So I know you will get some roadmap information with regard to that aspect of Power Apps next month.
Okay, so a couple other questions. When can we expect the Power Platform Admin Center to become generally available?
I wish Audrey was here. I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, so some of these questions that we don't know, again, we'll follow up and we'll put them into the blog post summary, as Todd mentioned before. Brian just posted a link in the IM chat for the roadmap notes for the next 12 months. So you can take a look at that, and then you can come to the next call with questions on that, and we should be able to answer a little bit more there. There was another question, and this might be the same thing. Anyone have any idea when Power Apps will be available to external SharePoint users? Could it be this year?
That is definitely a good question for the Power Apps team.
Sounds good. We'll follow up on that one as well. And does anybody happen to know the exact height of SharePoint thumbnails I can find for landscape photos, but what about portrait for small, medium, and large thumbnails?
Like an Office 365 profile picture thumbnail?
Do you want to expand on that? I need to go back and find out who asked that question.
I see a question here from, Brian said they haven't announced a date yet for it. Joel asks a question, and good to see you again, Joel. The question is, any general advice on the safety of using experimental features in production apps? Because the features might change, break, or disappear. My advice is talk to your client about it. I have some clients who are comfortable with it and understand that we may need to make changes to their code or they could break unexpectedly. And they're okay with that because, especially with components, they like the long-term gain they're getting out of developing things with components compared to without components. I have other folks who say that's too risky for me. I'm willing to build it the way that's not experimental right now. And then in the future, if we decide we'll change into those features once they're not experimental, we'll revisit it at that point. Wish I had a better answer to it on kind of a yes/no on a feature by feature basis, but I think that's that's the most pragmatic way to look at it. Okay, well, that looks like we're to the end of the questions. If anybody also has ideas for content they would like to see on the call, please feel free to tweet out with PowerAppsCC and let us know. I'm always lining up speakers and pulling together the next month's agenda and planning several months out with Audrey. So we'd love to get your ideas into the queue on what we plan to share with the community every month. So thanks again, everybody, and we will see you next time. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.